Hey everyone, welcome back. Shoes here, This Irish Life. We have episode 9, part 3, Boyne Valley, My Torah and Ishnok. We are going into Ishnok. It's an unassuming place with a big story behind it. And we've gone into the story. We're in part 3. I don't know, are we going to get it finished in 3 parts? We've got plenty to get through. We've got a couple of new characters to add in as well and a few more parallels to draw. So we're going to get straight into it. And we're on top of Ishnok. So right, we're on Ishnok. You know where we are. If you're watching this video, you've watched the first one. We're on top of Ishnok here in the middle of the country. It's the navel, the axis mundi of the of Ireland and the world, I think they say, like the axis mundi. It is the mountain of Eru, or the mound of Eru, where she is buried. They say the goddess of Ireland. Look at these walls up here. So we're on top of the mound, right? These are all walls along here. These are all buried along here as well. This would be a wall. All these shapes here on the ground would be all masonry. I've seen enough of it. This is masonry too. You can guarantee it. You dig this up all under here. And this path here is along the edge. You can guarantee, like, there's a wall here that runs along, obviously. So let's just follow this path up here a little bit. Because it's quite unassuming from the ground. You can't really, like, that's a fierce high drop there now. Why couldn't I see that from, how will I know what way I'm facing here now? I'm going to come out of here a second because I really want to see the edge of that and the face. I need to check that out immediately. Because when we looked at this the other day, it seemed a bit unassuming. Obviously, you're at the top here, and we see a lot of masonry. This is what you expect to see. This is what you see on all the hillsides of Ireland. But we're at the top of the well. This is a mega well. These are all hills here, all walls. Sorry. I notice sometimes, actually, I've listened to one or two parts of the videos. Sometimes I might confuse a word or a name. Like I might confuse something, and if I do, apologies. I just talking off the top of my head. I prepare material. But go with what I say most often, because I repeat myself constantly, so that the message, because I know it's complicated and difficult to get, so I repeat myself often. For that reason. So go with what I say most often, not the one that I don't say very often. Now, where were we there? Fort. It's a fort up here. Where's that drop? Is that here? Is this? Like, it's this. Like, you really, like, is that the drop? Like, that looked like quite the drop a minute ago when we were looking out. And that's what, like, it's only there. Like, we're getting a sense of it, but for some reason, can't really. Like, I see here, like, it's. I'm pretty sure you can see there's a slope upwards on this aspect here. A gentle slope. Here's a slight slope upwards. I don't know, can you see it? I can see it because I've looked at it so much. And here I see it slope downwards. So that seems to be where it was looking out on, is it? Just struggling to see where that where the height is coming from. Obviously, the hill of Ishnok, it's a big hill, but it really looks like a fairly, like, is it such a big hill that I'm just too close? Like here now, I can see the hill. And once again, we're talking fort. Like here's the edge of it. I think this is the angle. Like I'm still learning how to get these angles, but like this is the angle where you see the edges of where it comes to flat. So this is the hill raised up above the ground. Here's the edge of a star on the hill. So this is the edge of the star. And then you follow it around here and we're seeing the hill. And here's the edge of the other star. And another star coming out even. And we go around the hill all the way around. And here's the edge of another star. More here. And then this could be the very edge. This could be it. This is the far edge. Goes around here. All around, maybe this is the far edge. And then we're encompassing, are these all hills? Like when I was talking about like here, like is this a hill? And the others, like when I was talking about the driving on the motorway coming from Dublin to Cork, if you look to your left, you can see like this is it. You really lose the height sometimes in Google Maps, but you can see all of these mounds way off to your left, and they just look so odd. Like this is obviously a high hill, the hill of Ishnok. Must be a decent size hill, I don't really know. Let's have a look at the hill of Ishnok, in fact, right? I think that's enough looking at it on the ground. It's completely devastated. You may as well be looking at the top of a mountain. There's nothing on there. So let's have a look at just give us a chance to re-get the bearings of where we were at. Just trying to get the aspect right so you can see the fort. Like I think that's, you go down lower, that's the top of the fort and that's the hill down. And anyway, there we go. So did we read this already? It is, yes, we've read this already. Quick reminder, because we're on episode 3, even 4. It stands just 596 feet above sea level. It's one of the most sacred and historic sanctuaries in the world. Like that is a big call. Like it's believed to be a gate to the mythical 5th province of Meath, which held the 4 more familiar provinces of Ireland together. So it's saying here that Ishnok was the gate to the mythical 5th province, Meath. That's pretty cool. Didn't know that, just learned that there now. Obviously skipped it. I've read this before, I'm pretty sure. Eru's Divine Place. So this was Eru's place, as we've said before. Oh yes, we've gone through a fair few of these in the early chapter. I think episode 1, I think we went through this. This was a good one. This guy, he was a dark character, and Eru cursed him to die. Bold Eru. The 2 of the Danny Kings, so McGrain and McKecht and McCool. Is that Fionn McCool, son of Hazel Kecht, son of the Plough? Magrianus, son of the sun. They were grandsons of the Dagda, god of life. Everyone. This is basically the Dagda. Everyone was the Dagda's child in Irish history. That's fine. Carry on. Her name is associated with soil and abundance. That's an interesting one. The Milesians. That story there is this story of the Milesians. This really parallels, I think, Partholon, one of the earlier apparent invaders of Ireland. But you know what? We're not going to go into that right now. I don't think we need to add any more complexity to the mix. The Stone of Scone, a medieval Scottish lawyer. So the Stone of Scone what does that say? It says it was transported from ancient Egypt via Iberia. So the Stone of Scone, maybe it was like maybe that was like a crystal of some sort, you know? Maybe like certain crystals, you know, maybe that's what it did. Like it created a crystal star. You know, you put it down in the ground and you chant an incantation and it starts to just go build wells, it goes into the tree. Maybe it's like nanotech or something. Who knows what these things were? But they managed to do it. So the Stone of Scone, whatever it was transported by the Egyptian pharaoh, the daughter of the Egyptian pharaoh, Scota, who was the wife of Gade Glass, an ancestor of the Milesians. This is the story that we went into there earlier on about the Milesians. So it was the son of Scota that I think it was Briogan who had the son Eith, who came to Ireland and conquered it. Eith, I suppose you could probably. They killed Eith then. Not a good result for Eith. Scota, along with a band of warriors, took her royal seat with her and it was confiscated by the King of England. Through conquest, they invaded Ireland. The stone has been associated with the Leofáil. So maybe the Leofáil, like that thing sticking out the top of Tara, maybe that was a serious bit of kit and it's now just turned off. You know? The Leofáil. Interesting actually, the Leofáil. Let's have a look at the Leofáil. If we have a pick handy. We don't. Yeah, but the Leofáil is just a roundy stone, but it's an interesting, like some stone has a lot of glass-like texture in it, and the Leofáil has that texture. Look, we're going to blast to have a look at the Leofáil. Stone of Destiny. Stone of Destiny is like the tablets of destiny, which is the Mies. The Mies are the tablets of destiny, which Inanna, the Anunnaki goddess, stole. Leofáil, Stone of Destiny. Gonna drop my man into there. Come on. Look at that. Epic. It'll actually let me drop him on there. Let's have a little walk in Tara. So this is Tara. If you haven't, like, we haven't walked Tara. We looked at it from above in the earlier episodes. But this is the Leofáil, right? Okay. So what we have here, and now with these eyes now, this is a very interesting proposition to consider because I haven't considered certain things. with the canal civilization or the crystal canal civilization in mind. So this stone here, this is the Leofal, called the Leofal, Stone of Destiny. It sits on top of Tara Hill, which is in Tara in County Meath, which is in the Boyne Valley. And the Boyne Valley is associated with Boann, the goddess, also probably Eru, lover of the Dagda, mother of Angus. We've also got a gravestone on top here too. So yeah, go figure, like, go figure. And these little things here, they undulate down. Like I remember running up and down these as a young fella. Interesting. This here is very interesting as well. See this thing in the cheek, right? I wonder what that was. I think that that was something else. I just have this weird feeling. I don't know why. I just see tech at the top of some of these hills, and it's like, what is that? So let's have a little wander. Where can we wander to? I go over here. Walking through Tara. I mean, that isn't that a little? Isn't that a treat? There's a Celtic cross randomly as well in the middle of nowhere. So there's another one of these here. I don't know, are these old or new? They could very well be new. I don't know. But look at this here. I mean, this is the middle of the star, the top of the fort. We've already looked at Tara as a fort. I'm not going to do it now. I'm on the ground. Let's go to this one. So just another little mound, you know, just mounds everywhere. And this looks out then. So these are the hills. So I suppose Ishnok is like this. These hills aren't that high. They're probably like 600 feet. They're probably all about the same size. That's why all of the hills are the same size. I wondered, because in Cork, all of the hills are the same height, exactly almost. But it makes sense now why, because they cut down all the trees, or they did whatever they did to the landscape, and then they put these wells on top of them all. Whatever they did, they just put the wells everywhere. Maybe it wasn't on top of trees. The wells went down on top of something, and then when the wells were covered in dirt, they all look the same height, but they all just look like big hills. But they're all the same height, so that's why, like, all of Cork City, the north side of Cork City, like, that's all the well, like the top of the wells. That's all the, like, Sunday's well. There we go. It's a well. It's not a holy well. These were mega wells. And the mega wells, we're on top of a mega well here. And this mega well is looking out probably a couple of 100 feet. Just like Ishnok, it's the same tech. Same people. So where can I walk to? What's this over here? Can I get to this? So here's another little thing just sticking out of the ground. So there's a lot of this just sticking out of the ground. So this fella over here, now this, if I can walk to here, now that would be a treat. Because this, I don't know, can you see? Can I just go over here? This here is a Celtic cross sitting randomly on the top of this verge here. You can see it. You can see it there. So I remember looking at this Celtic cross recently when I was at Tara 2 or 3 years ago. I was like, why? Like I knew about the mud and the covering, but I couldn't make out. I had no idea about like star canals or that's a recent revelation. Um, I wonder, like, I'd be like, why is there a Celtic cross there? Like, it's just so odd. But obviously, like, this was the top of the tech. These were powering the wells. This is what powered the wells. Or this had a function of something with power. I think it just makes sense that it did because like the obelisks, they're all of the same ilk, and they're all associated with the abbeys, and they're all associated with churches, which are possibly associated with healing. It just makes sense. Let's see, can I get over here? Will it bring me over there? Is it the church? We'll have a tiny look at the graveyard. Could that? Bring me up. Bring me back. There we go. So that is worth a little trip to Tara there now. We're not done yet. We're going to drop down in here. We may have dropped down before. I vaguely remember dropping in here. But we're doing it anyway now, regardless. So once again, here we've got a scene of devastation and destruction. And all this fancy gizmos with lots of metal, little urns, walls, stair shapies, more graves, you know, less people who are buried there. Now, God bless them. The church itself then. This is a Church of Ireland, considered a Church of Ireland church as far as I'm aware. I don't know, was it ever in use? Look at this obelisk here. So imagine now this is a crystalline something or other. If you blast limestone, like when these get blasted and cleaned sometimes, they come up pristine as well, which is very odd. These over here as well, like, and the railings, you just gotta. This here, like, was that just a big crystal? Were these all just big crystal? Is that what this was? Can we walk over here? We can see all across the plain. Just to give an idea. So all these hills, so every hill, it seems, is one of these mega wells. It's a fortification. It was a house of one of the gods, essentially. These were owned by the gods and the goddesses. These was their houses. This, like, once again, all the mud covering it. What was this? This is like 6+ feet of more masonry into the ground of whatever that was. So this would have been a fort wall, and this would have all been removed, so it would have been lower, and you'd have canals running along down below. This all would have been lower down. So that's we went to Tara. We looked at the Stone of Destiny right there. Will that bring me up? That'd be handy if that brought me up. Is that like a fake window? That chipboard, real nice. But look at this here, like, just to give an example of the sharpness of the stone. And this is all like, see this here, see these little flecks in the stone. These are common everywhere. You see this in all stone of this type, in all the cathedrals and all the old churches. It's just this, it's like the finish of the, just the masonry finish of it. Anyway, so that's Tara. That was a nice little trip to Tara. So we looked at the Stone of Destiny. That's what brought us there. The Stone of Destiny, so brought from Scotia. So she start the civilization was the Stone of Destiny, like a beginning kind of, like you drop the Stone of Destiny in, and then the programming takes over and it just builds the star civilization for you, like a star civilization in your pocket. That's what I was trying to say that time, actually, and I forgot what I was saying. That they had their little bag of tricks, and I wonder, is the bag of tricks in one of the tools, like a star civilization in your pocket? It's like you just drop this, you just add it to water, you say, and then it'll build you. It'll start your well. That well is going to start pulling all the minerals you want. It's going to power your. It's going to build a cathedral for you to your liking. You can specify it depending on your spell. There's different shapes and sizes you can have. whatever you want, star civilizations on the go. It was a star civilization, there was a sale on star civilization technology, and the Irish kings and the Anunnaki and everyone else on Earth, they got in on it. They got in on the star civilization crystal building technology. They were all in. It was like live forever, build a star civilization, enjoy nature, don't destroy yourself. The names of some of the Milesians are based on the names of the Gaels: Gael Glas, Phineas, Scotia, Eber, and Eramon, and Eir from Era. So that's an interesting one there. Like Scotia, is Scotia Eru, again, and Eramon, Era, you know. Could this be like these Milesians? Could these once again be the same people again, just pretending to be other people, fighting themselves, but they were the people that were actually doing the fighting. Maybe they were all in league together all the time, but they're making out like they weren't. So in the first great pitched battle, when the Milesians came, it was fought near Tralee, and the Milesians won, but they lost the Aegis Queen Mother Scotia, who fell amidst the slain and was buried underneath a royal cairn in Glenscohan, close by. So you'd wonder, is like, were they down in Tralee and they were attacked? Were they, were these the Southerners even? Where were they coming from? So the Queen Mother Scotia, and that's kind of like Ernmas, who was apparently killed in the first battle of Moytura. Ernmas, the mother of Eru, the wife of Dealbath, the mother of Elaha, who's the father of the Dagda. So is that battle? Is that just the same one again? They retold that story as Scotia. I think Scotia is a Partholonian. Is Partholon? No, sure, we're on about the Milesians. So Scotia's a Milesian, but does it mirror? It mirrors the stories of the Tuatha Dé Danann and the Firbolg, the first fight, the first war. So indeed, the queens of ancient Ireland figure very prominently in our history. So the final engagement was fought in Tailteann and Meath. We said that as well. So Tailteann, that's also where Macha, one of the Morrigan, an equivalent to like Fowler or Banba, or Eru. That's where she was related to Taltu, godmother or foster mother of Lug Lavada, also possibly his real mother. I don't know, are we going to go through this? I'm going to have a quick scan there. This is related to Ishnok. So there's a set of monument spread over 2 kilometers. So the size of the fortification, the size of the well is 2 kilometers. About 20 are visible, and the remains of at least 20 others have been identified under the ground. So obviously there's a massive underground complex. It's a mega well. They include megalithic. So megalithic is a mega well. So a megalithic well, mega tomb, a mega well, burial mounds, enclosures and standing stones, holy wells in the medieval road. So they have all of everything about them. So this is what they've done. This is just genius. The lads who've rewritten history, they've said that there's a megalithic tomb. So in the megalithic period, which is like 4000 BC, which is like 6,000 years ago. So they get you thinking, right, so there's a 6,000-year-old tomb there. And then there's some burial mounds that were also around that time. And there's some enclosures and standing stones, which were from kind of around that time as well, but maybe a little closer. Maybe it could have been like 4,000 years ago instead of 6. Then some holy wells that are from the Catholic times. Well, that's only like about 1,000 years ago. And the medieval road, and that's about 500 years ago. So they basically spread out the whole. So there's a big mega well there, all built at the same time as the Crystal Canal cities. And they've spread it out over 1, 2, 3, maybe 4 time periods. over a period of 6,000 years, 6,000 plus years. So they've spread out this thing to 6,000 plus years. So interestingly enough, there's always truth in what they say somewhere. So does that mean that this thing was going for 6,000 years? That maybe the megalithic tomb, i.e. the mega well, the 2 kilometer gigantic behemoth of a structure, star structure that's beneath the ground, does that mean that that was built around 6,000 years ago during the air quotes megalithic period? Maybe it does. You could be could you be go for 6,000 years? And don't they say, isn't that what the Bible says, that the world is like 6,000 years old or 4,000? I don't know. I don't subscribe to it. Yes, either way. But it says it. Oh look, the date from the Neolithic to early Middle Age showing the sites have been the focus of human activity for about 5,000 years. So 5,000 years they're putting the activity starting, which could be true, you know? This is the thing. You can't throw it all out. They may be telling half truth. They may be calling it a megalithic tomb and a burial mound enclosure and a medieval road. But, you know, we are adding the understanding to them. Like maybe medieval road to them means, you know, Starfort Road or Megawell Road, if you know what I mean. And then can they get away with the loopholes of saying one thing and it not being a lie somehow? So, the summit has panoramic views from which hills in at least 20 counties can be seen. Like, that's impressive. On the summit is the remains of a probable megalithic tomb known as St. Patrick's Bed, which was once surrounded by a ring ditch. Downslope to the east is a small lake known as Loch Lug or Loch Lugborta, and on a rise east of this is a burial mound known as Cairn Lugdach, which was also once surrounded by a ring ditch. Where do the ring ditches go? South of these are 2 holy wells, nice, one of which is known as Tubber na Slaw and sits beside a circular enclosure and a standing stone. So, like, it speaks for itself. It has all the hallmarks of the mega well and the fact that it was Ishnok. It says like Lug. This is related to Lug Lavada, who was the foster son of Taltu, who was the son of Ethnu and the son of Cian, who was the son of the Dagda. No, Cian was the son of Dean Kecht, who was the brother of the Dagda, and the brother of Nuada. They're all like the brothers. In one understanding, they're unrelated in other understandings, but taking one perspective on it. At the southwest of the hill is a large, oddly shaped limestone rock. Is that big, gigantic rock? Weighs over 30 tons. It's just hilarious, like 30 tons. Megalithic guys were moving stuff 30 tons like cavemen. I mean, it's just ridiculous when you think about it, isn't it? Obviously, we're not attributing, like, we're cavemen now compared to what we were. No cavemen going around, maybe straight after the cataclysm, although I'm not sure how cataclysmic the cataclysm was. I wonder, was it almost like a controlled demolition where you blow the well, you get the people out, you bring the people back, everything's covered, you tell them a story, happy days. You know, not too many people die. It's like a sneaky one, you know, like the way they do it now. All illusion. They just cast the illusion, and they cast the illusion that the world has. They just cast their illusion that the world as they wanted it to be cast. In prehistory, an earthen bank was dug around it to mark it out as a special place. In Irish, it's called Isle Namiran, Stone of the Divisions, as it is known to be where the borders of the provinces met. It is also nicknamed the Cat Stone, allegedly because it resembles the shape of a sitting cat. So is that big stone that's apparently the Axa Mundi, the cat stone, that big glacial erratic, that 30 ton? So is that that's the meeting place of all of the provinces of Ireland. Probably where all the rivers come from as well. Well, not all the rivers, but all the rivers probably connect to it. Like I think they all connected to each other as well in like a giant electromagnetic or computer grid. Like each one worked with the other and powered the other probably. The more you had, the more power you had, the more that you had together, probably like a cluster. That would make sense. The biggest monument at Uisneach is Rath New, the remains of a figure of eight-shaped earthwork and medieval road leads towards Rath New to Rath. So a new Rath. So what's a Rath? Just they're all mega wells, aren't they? Rathnew was originally one round enclosure marked by a ditch with an eastern entrance. Inside are several pits containing partly burnt animal bones, because the lads were hungry after the cataclysm, probably. It appears that fires have been kindled. We love getting fires. They're like, oh, fires. It was probably like 50 years ago, you know. Um, in the later in the early medieval period, a large figure of eight-shaped earthwork was raised on the site. It was a large round enclosure with a smaller enclosure joined to it, marked by a bank and a ditch. Each within the enclosure was a small stone building and a souterrain. So, a souterrain is an underground structure, which you'll remember from our earlier episodes. Any underground structure is a souterrain. Couldn't be a building, it just has to be a souterrain. It was suggested that Rathnew at this time was a place of royal and religious gatherings. May have been served as a holy residence for kings of Meath. The Clown Cumlawn chieftains who became kings of Meath were styled kings of Uisneach in early medieval kings lists. So these are all the Normans as well in my view from my research, as far as I can see. And these kings of Meath, these Clown Cumlawn chieftains, I'd be also putting to like I think that everything here was pre-flood, and after the flood, or after the majority of the takeover was complete and the majority of the wells were exploded and most of the wood or the mud, maybe it happened in two phases, because there definitely seems to be one phase where not all the wells are blown, but most of the civilization is covered in mud. But there's some fortifications left, and then there was less fortifications left. Nowadays, there's even less again. So I'm looking at 1600 maps from the earlier episodes, and then comparing that to now, there's even less again. So that's the picture that's emerging. The good God is said to have lived at Uisneach and stabled his solar horses here. Two souterrains have been located inside a wheel-shaped enclosure. One of these caves is in the shape of a mare pursued by a galloping stallion. Horse deities have always been associated with the hill. Interesting. And Beltane, Maytime, Bealtaine, sorry. Call it Beltane. It's actually pronounced Bealtaine. A beautiful word actually, isn't it? Bealtaine. A fire was lit on Uisneach to celebrate the coming of summer. The lighting of the Uisneach fire was a signal for lighting fires on many hills across the whole island, creating a unique fire eye, with Uisneach fire being the pupil. No, I never knew that. So the fires, I wonder, like when they say fires, would that just mean they all glow? You lit a fire, you turned on the well. I wonder, was that the thing? You had a central mega well, which was Tara. And the rule was that you were not allowed to light your mega well on the night where the fire is only allowed at Tara. So I'm going back to the St. Patrick myth here. And if you go to that, if you take that reasoning, you have so you light a fire. Let's say that you don't not light a fire. You're actually lighting the crystal. You're lighting the well. You're doing something with your well. That is your mega well, your whatever we're calling the 4 megafort well. You're doing something with it. Um, that's lighting. It's not necessarily a fire. Do you know? It's like maybe it's releasing like firework types of things and stuff like that, but maybe it's not a fire. Um, and maybe that there was like an etiquette where certain way, there was obviously a hierarchy there, no doubt, and there was people at the top, and there was people making decisions, and these were the guys that had the territories. They were Nuada, they were Dagda, they were Elaha, they were Eru, they were Dalebath, they were their children. So another story, Ishnak is linked to the sun god Lug. It is said that Lug, who gave rise to the harvest celebration of Lunasa, was drowned in a lake on the hill, and he rests beneath an adjoining tumulus. According to one theory, the god Lug, with his long arm, Lug of the long arm, Lug Lavada, long arm trailing behind him, and his face too bright to look at, was actually a comet. Really, isn't that lovely, So there is some serious backstory on um, Ishnok and its priesthood, and it's just down the road as well from um, it's just down the road from Tara. So here's Tara. We'll just come out from where we were, Marguerite's bookshop. I've been there. I bought a book on the myth and legend of Tara in this place. I'd highly recommend it. It's great. Lovely people. Where are my hearts gone? We'll wait for them to load. While they load, we'll have a quick look at this. In Irish mythology, it's just a sacred center of the land, burial place of Dagda and Lug. It also says Dagda is buried in Brúna Bóna. A sacred tree, Boyle Ishnig, place of assembly associated with druids during Bealtaine. So also they seem to have been associated with the stars as well, and they seem to have possibly placed their stars in the same places as the stars above, which is why there's a mimicking. Like if you know the Boval, the researcher, he researches Giza and Egypt. I can't remember his first name. Robert Boval. So he talks about the mirroring in Egypt along the Nile of the constellations being plotted in the ground in almost identical positions. So I'm not sure how accurate it ended up being, but I know he was very accurate with some stuff and other stuff. You can't get everything, but you wonder, is that what was going on? They had they mirrored the stars in their civilization. It was part of it. And they mirrored the stars in the ground with the stars in the sky. The stars, like literally the stars, the stairwells. The Navel of Ireland, meeting place of Earth and the other world, and the source of creation. Right, like that's a big call there. Like said to have marked the meeting point of the provinces of Ireland. So Connacht, Leinster, Munster, and Ulster, and then Ishnok in the middle as the entrance to the other world. So if you want to go to the other world, you go through Ishnok. Who's the goddess of the other world? Eru. Who's the goddess of Ishnok? Eru. Is that what was happening? The other world. Where are the good guys? Is the other world the Irish equivalent to, like, I mean, is there an outside, more divine place? And the Canal Crystal World was a crazy melee of a place where crazy stuff was happening. It was wild. It's like the Wild West. the other gods didn't have too much to do with it. They didn't live here. Maybe the old gods, maybe like when the miners came in, did they dispossess the giants, the titans? Is that what happened? Eru sold out to or Ernmes, the mother of Eru, sold out, and she was Eve, and she sold her rivers to the mining Fomorians or the mining Anunnaki, whichever way you want to see it, whatever story you're going with. And when she sold out, then that began the story on this realm. Um, and the other gods, the titans and the giants, maybe they participated, maybe they didn't. Sure, the realms of the giants are apparently destroyed and razed to the ground, according to the tales from Scandinavia. So the Norse mythology talks about the frost giants and the other giants as well. I think there's a couple of giants, and sure they've got dwarves as well who lives in the mountains. So I wonder, like, is the other world essentially the mountains, which is the wells, which is the realm of the earth dwelling, canal building civilization that like was this canal, this crystal canal world, um, was that world ran by the same people who run the underworld, if you know what I mean. Like the gods, like they talk about it in biblical terms of like, Satan rules earth. He was cast down to earth from heaven, so he's not allowed in heaven. So like if you're actually kind of good, you can be like a good god in heaven, you can hang out in heaven, you can be immortal. You don't have to put up with all the rubbish of canal cities and crystal matrices and dying. But it's an adventure to go down, and it's an adventure that's open to everybody who's in the soul group, if you know what I mean. So that's just to be considered. That's to be considered. Let's read another little bit of this. So the Din Shankas, which we've read from several times already, says that Ishnuk is where the Druid Mead lit a sacred fire that blazed for 7 years. So he turned on the Star Forge or the Star Well for 7 years, the Mega Well. Turned it on for 7 years. The tale Tucket Balya Mungan, Mungan's Frenzy, describes how a great hailstorm during an assembly on the hill created 12 chief rivers of Ireland. In the lower Gaul Éireann, the Gaels meet the goddess Eru at Ishnuk, where after some conversation and drama, the Milesian poet American promises to give the land her name. She is said to be buried under Isla Nimiran. That's an interesting one though about the 12 rivers, the 12 chief rivers coming out during a great hailstorm. So like, is this like in the Din Shankas it says that Ishnus, the Druid Maid, so he's probably the Dagda or probably Elaha or Nuada or Dean Cacht, one of them or all of them. He set a fire to blaze for 7 years. So is that like talking about when they first dropped the well? So they come in, there's no well. They do whatever they need to do to make the land ready. I don't know, is that cutting down trees? I don't know, is it what? I don't know what they did. I don't know what the landscape looked like beforehand. No idea. I assume there was lots of trees and lots of mushrooms and different types of vibrant growth. And they came in, and I think that when they came in, they probably introduced the destruction element and probably insects and things like that. I think that they could even be creations of them, like to break down the minerals. They have think of an insect as a really highly engineered biological device, and they're very device-like, computer-like insects. So just to break down all of, let's say you cut down the trees, you need to mulch it, you need to break it down, you need insects, maybe that's what they did. How did they break down the trees? How did they take them down? Maybe they just set off these magical, like scarab beetles, like in Egypt, where they just set off, that movie, The Mummy, where scarab beetles absolutely just ravage people. They just like, and they just eat through everything. Like if you set a massive amount of scarab beetles on a giant tree, what happens? Or a giant mushroom, or a giant whatever. Um, and then you drop down, you take out your magical bag, you take out your little star mega well token. You've got like a mega well token, and you just drop it, and you add water, and you say the incantation that's been told to you by your teacher, by your mentor, so you know how to play the game, and then your mega well starts. And when it starts, a great hailstorm occurs, and rivers burst forth from the land through the mega well. So it started 7 years it took, and then then the well was operational. That's what I read from that now. In mythology, Ishnok and Tara are said to be linked. Ishnok is mainly sort of a spiritual power. That's kind of neither here nor there in this world, to be honest. The Feast of Samhain, Feast of Tara at Samhain, and Ishnok at Beltane, Beltana. Feast of Tara, new laws are passed in councils. The Fair of Taltu, held at Lunasal, seems to be nearly equal importance as the Great Meeting of Ishnok and the Feast of Tara. So there were three big events in the Irish calendar. The Feast of Tara at Samhain, which is around this time of year. Samhain is Halloween, the end of October, beginning of November. Bealtaine, which is May. I think it's not May, it's the start of May. So the harvest begins, and then Fair of Taltu, I don't know when the date of that was, but that's like an Olympic Games that Lugla Vada patronaged. There is a reference to Ishnok in the tale of Deirdre of the Sorrows. She was born with a prediction that her beauty would be so great that kings would wage wars to fight for her. Crohar MacNassa, king of Ulster, kept her hidden away from birth for himself in the future. When older, she falls in love with Nisha, a handsome young warrior, hunter, and singer at Crohar's court. They escaped to Scotland accompanied by his fiercely loyal brothers Ordon and Anla, the sons of Ishnok. Who was Ishnok? Is Ishnok the Dagda? Geoffrey Monmouth says Stonehenge stood at the hill of Kildare in Ireland before being moved to Britain. That's quite outlandish, isn't it? So there's a lot going on, isn't there? We've got a Crystal Canal city that is falling apart at the seams, and this lady here is at the centre of it. This Eru, this is the goddess of Ireland. She's got, is that the harp of the Dagda there? What's the story about the Lia Fáil actually? Every time there is a new king of Ireland, the Lia Fáil would shout when the rightful king of Ireland takes his throne. It's almost like the crystal was selecting the ruler. Yes, you can be the leader. Like it's interesting to consider like this crystal thing. Once again, I know it's outlandish, but I think like if you've come this far in these series, like you've got to consider like if this canal civilization was potentially highly technologically advanced in that regard, it would make sense. And they've got all these magical powers and all these magical toys and gizmos. It would only make sense that the world they lived in was very different to our world. We're in the Stone Age now, is what we are. We are in the Stone Age. We are fast asleep in the Stone Age. We are we are super in the Stone Age, if ever there was an example of it. So we're going to carry on the Ishnok episode into episode 5. Episode 5? Episode 4. I'd imagine, actually, we could be on episode 5, are we? Where are we indeed? I am wondering where we are. And I'm going to have a look. So we're on so this is part 3. So we're going to move on to part 4 next, the tale of Ishnok. And we're going to pick up the tale. We're going to probably see a bit more of St. Patrick. He's going to pop in. Maybe we'll see some local, I think we'll look at some local cathedral. I know we're near Mullingar and Offaly. So we'll pop down in there, great spots. Is that the end of my slide? Certainly is. So with that, there's nowhere to go from here. Part 4 is going to pick off somewhere. It's going to kick off somewhere. And I will see you then. Hope you enjoyed this installment. It was exciting. We connected a lot more dots, so I enjoyed it. And we'll see you in the next episode. As always, think good thoughts and yeah, enjoy yourselves. See you in the next one.